the disappearance of Tom and Eileen Lonergan. On January 25th, 1998, Tom and Eileen Lonergan left their hostel for Port Douglas in the far north of Queensland, Australia. The couple were avid scuba divers who had recently finished 3 years' work for the Peace Corps and decided to take a vacation in Queensland before returning home to Louisiana. Tom, Eileen, and 24 others boarded the Outer Edge boat, the boat that would transport them to St. Crispin's Reef. While on board, the couple informed another diver, Catherine Traverso, that they were going to go off and do their own thing. At 2:30 p.m., the boat stopped at the tip of the reef. It was a beautiful day. Everyone dived in and enjoyed themselves. About an hour later, they boarded the boat again and a head count was taken. Jeffrey Nairn, the owner of the boat, counted 26. However, Tom and Eileen were not back on board. The boat returned to Port Douglas and the 24 divers disembarked. Left on the boat, however, were 2 bags belonging to Tom and Eileen. 2 tanks and weight belts were also missing, but this went unnoticed by the staff. The next day, the 26th of January, the Outer Edge once again returned to St. Crispin's Reef for another dive. 2 weight belts were discovered by divers, and it is likely that they belonged to Tom and Eileen. But the crew did not think anything of this discovery. Finally, on Tuesday the 27th, Jeffrey Nairn found the couple's bags among their lost and found items, including their passports. Jeffrey contacted the hostel where they had been staying and discovered that they had not returned. The call made to the police was made 51 hours after Tom and Eileen had been left stranded in the sea. An air and land search began and lasted 5 days, with no trace of the couple being found. On February 5th, Tom's buoyancy control device, or BCD, was discovered washed ashore near Indian Head, over 100 kilometers north from Port Douglas. At some point, Eileen's wetsuit was discovered, as well as a second BCD and a single fin. There are alternating reports that state Eileen's wetsuit had tears consistent with a shark bite. Other reports say that all scuba diving gear found was in excellent condition. 6 months had passed with no clues until a dive slate was discovered. A dive slate is a whiteboard that can be written on while diving underwater. Written on this dive slate, it said, Monday, January 26. Please help us. Come to rescue us before we die. Help. This is the last item found relating to Tom and Eileen. More details begun to emerge about the couple, leading to other theories about their fate. Both Tom and Eileen kept personal journals, which were discovered among the belongings at the hostel, the contents of which were increasingly disturbing. 6 months before going missing, Tom wrote, "Like a student who has finished an exam, I feel that my life is complete and I am ready to die. As far as I can tell, from here, my life can only get worse. It has peaked, and it's all downhill from here until my funeral." Weeks before the couple's final dive at St. Crispin's Reef, Eileen wrote, "Tom hopes to die a quick and painless death, and he hopes it happens soon. Tom is not suicidal, but he's got a death wish that could lead him to what he desires, and I could get caught in that." The rest of Tom's journal was similar, and both wrote of how they hated their jobs. Some believe they could have faked their own death, or undergone some sort of suicide pact. An inquest began, and on October 10th, Coroner Noel Noonan found the couple had died either from exposure, drowning, or shark attack. Noonan also committed Jeffrey Nairn to stand trial for manslaughter. Jeffrey's trial began on November 8, 1999, and his counsel pushed the murder-suicide theory. A jury found Jeffrey not guilty. However, he was forced to pay $28,000 for negligence. In the months following their disappearances, there were dozens of reported sightings of them. A woman who owned a bookstore in Port Douglas said the couple walked in 2 days after they disappeared and bought maps and postcards. Another sighting was at a hotel in Darwin, 3,000 kilometers away from Port Douglas. The night before the couple disappeared, there was a phone call made to Outer Edge, received by the operations manager. He answered, and on the other end was Tom, asking if the boat would be visiting Agincourt Reef. The manager said it would, and Tom became agitated, repeating the question several times. An employee of the Cairns Visitors Information Center testified that she also received a phone call from Tom, in which he asked if a charter boat called the Quicksilver 5 visited Agincourt Reef. Agincourt Reef is where the nearest lifebuoy was located, over 6 kilometers away from where the couple's dive began, at St. Crispin's Reef. Later that day, a fishing boat was seen speeding away from the area of the dive. The HMS Daedalus serpent. On August 6, 1848, at 5 p.m., the frigate ship named HMS Daedalus encountered what the captain later described in an official report as an enormous serpent, at least 60 feet long. This occurred in the South Atlantic, around 300 miles from the coast of Namibia. 3 professional drawings of the animal, authorized by Captain McQuay, were published, along with excerpts from a diary of Lieutenant Drummond. Another officer of the Daedalus also gave a confirmed account. Describing what he saw, Captain McQuay wrote, "The weather was dark and cloudy, wind fresh from the northwest. Something very unusual was seen by Mr. Sartorius, the midshipman, rapidly approaching the ship. On our attention being called to the object, it was discovered to be an enormous serpent, with head and shoulders kept about 4 feet, constantly above the surface of the sea, and as nearly as we could approximate its length, there was, at the very least, 60 feet of the animal on the surface, no portion of which was, to our perception, used in propelling it through the water. It passed rapidly, but so close under our lee quarter that had it been a man of my acquaintance, I should have easily recognized his features with the naked eye. And it did not, either in approaching the ship or after it had passed our wake, deviate in the slightest degree from its course to the southwest, which it held on to the pace from 12 to 15 miles per hour, apparently on some determined purpose. The diameter of the serpent was about 15 or 16 inches behind the head, which was, without any doubt, that of a snake, and it was never, during the 20 minutes it was in our sight, once below the surface of the water. Its color a dark brown, with a yellowish white around the throat. It had no fins, but something like the mane of a horse, or rather a bunch of seaweed on its back. He later added that it had a flat head. Lieutenant Drummond wrote, "We observed a most remarkable fish on our lee quarter, crossing the stern in a southwest direction. The appearance of its head, which with the back fin was the only portion of the animal visible, was long, pointed, and flattened at the top, perhaps 10 feet in length, the upper jaw projecting considerably. The fin was perhaps 20 feet in the rear of the head, and visible occasionally. The captain also asserted that he saw the tail, or another fin, about the same distance behind it. The upper part of the head and shoulders appeared a dark brown color, and beneath the jaw a brownish white. It pursued a steady, undeviating course, keeping large snake or eel. No one on the ship has seen anything similar before, so it is at least extraordinary. It was visible to the naked eye for 5 minutes, and with a glass, perhaps 15 more. The weather was dark and squally at the time, with some sea running. Theories of what the Daedalus serpent was have included a deep-sea teleost fish, a land snake swimming at sea, a surviving plesiosaur, an elephant seal, an oarfish, a sei whale, or another type of whale. Point Nemo. Point Nemo refers to an extremely isolated area of the South Pacific Ocean, in which marine life is thought to have hardly evolved due to its remoteness and weak ocean currents. There are not enough nutrients in the water for more developed, larger wildlife to survive. It is the least biologically active area of the ocean, although the famous Bloop Sound was discovered near to this location. Point Nemo was officially discovered by a process of deduction in 1992 and has not been properly explored since. It is also called the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. Its coordinates are found by calculating the greatest distance from the 3 closest land coordinates. It is likely that no human has ever passed through Point Nemo's exact coordinates. In Latin, Nemo means no one. It is named so because its location is the furthest place from any land or human life. The closest land is Bouvet Island in the Pitcairn Islands, 2,700 kilometers away, and the closest humans are not on Earth, but instead are the astronauts in the International Space Station, 400 kilometers above. Space agencies use Point Nemo when calculating their trajectory of re-entry. It is a space graveyard where decommissioned spacecrafts go to die. For example, when the Russian space station Mir was decommissioned, Point Nemo was chosen as the spot for it to crash land on. This ensures that the resulting debris does not cause damage on land. NASA favors it for the final resting place of the International Space Station, which will have to be dismantled or reconfigured in 2024. Since 1971, more than 263 pieces of equipment have crashed into Point Nemo, including NASA's first space station, Skylab. Project Mohole. In 1958, Project Mohole began, where American scientists attempted to drill through the seafloor with the goal of reaching the Earth's mantle. Engineers drilled through the Peninsula. Named the Kola Super Deep Borehole, it was just 9 inches in diameter and 40,230 feet deep, or 7.5 miles. It is currently the deepest hole and took almost 20 years to reach that depth. However, it is still less than half the distance needed to reach the mantle. The Kola hole was abandoned in 1992 when drillers encountered higher temperatures than expected. It had reached 356 degrees Fahrenheit, which was way more than the estimated 212 degrees. Among their discoveries, they found microscopic plankton fossils found at 4 miles down. A research geologist, Benjamin Andrews, said, "If we have a better knowledge of what the mantle is and how it behaves, we will have better knowledge of volcanoes and earthquakes, and better knowledge of how the planet as a whole works." Drilling to such massive depths requires mapping and seismology studies, but even then, occasionally we hit a surprise, he says. Ultimately, it is a journey of discovery, and part of why you're drilling is because you want to find out what's down there. Plastic mystery. Every year, masses of manufactured plastic are dumped into the ocean. However, scientists found that 99% of the plastic that should be floating in the sea is missing. Even when accounting for the plastic that washes up on beaches or is trapped in Arctic ice, millions of tons have simply disappeared. The mystery has been called dark plastic. Most plastic never deteriorates or decomposes. It just keeps breaking down into smaller and smaller microplastic particles that are invisible to the human eye. Scientists have not yet figured out what happens to this plastic. The world's biggest known concentration of ocean plastic is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, an accumulation of floating debris in the North Pacific Ocean. It is estimated to contain 80,000 tons, or 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic. Other ocean locations hold smaller collections. In the South Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and the North and South Atlantic. The total mass of known plastic floating on or near the surface of the ocean is around 250,000 tons, but that is not enough. Since we started putting plastic into the sea in the 1950s, the amount released has risen to around 10 million tons per year. Most of the material entering the oceans today is less dense than water, which means there should be tens of millions of tons of plastic Floating objects seem to take several years to make their way from when they enter the sea to when they reach the ocean garbage patches, where they stay long term. Most plastic never finish that journey, but where they end up and how they get there are still not known. Theories include that they have been ingested by organisms, degraded by bacteria, or have sank or become buried under the ocean floor. How plastic would descend to the deep ocean is another mystery. Because of its low density, most commercial plastic floats. Therefore, it needs help to get below the surface. It's thought that plastic could fragment into such small pieces that it can barely be detected, at which point it would become more like a chemical dissolved in the water rather than just floating in it. Bouvet Island. Bouvet Island is the world's most remote island. It is uninhabited and only 19 square miles in total. It's located far south in the Atlantic Ocean, between South Africa and Antarctica. In the 1960s, a group of South African scientists arrived, hoping to set up a marine station. While exploring, the scientists found something quite unexpected. It was a small rowboat found floating in a lagoon. There were no clues to suggest what happened in the lagoon. Previous expeditions had come to Bouvet Island, but none reported leaving anything behind, especially not a boat. The boat had no markings. It had no motor and no sail. They found the oars on the shore, along with a flattened copper tank and a barrel. Nothing else was found, although they were unable to do a thorough search given the harsh terrain. There was no evidence that people had stayed or died on the island. Since then, no one has come forward to say the boat was theirs. It could have possibly been left by an expedition. However, the lagoon was no more than 10 years old. There was only a small space of time during which the boat could have appeared. Research into who visited the island during that gap turned up nothing about an abandoned boat. It remains a mystery. Ettore Majorana. Ettore Majorana was born in Sicily, 1906. He was an extremely gifted physicist, perhaps even a genius who many believed would have won a Nobel Prize if he had not disappeared at the age of 32. In 1938, Ettore withdrew all of his money before embarking on a sailboat that would take him from Palermo to Naples. He sent a letter to Antonio Corelli, the director of the Naples Physics Institute, which said, "Dear Corelli, I made a decision that has become unavoidable. There is not a bit of selfishness in minute, but I realize what trouble my sudden disappearance will cause you and the students. For this as well, I beg forgiveness, but especially for betraying the trust, the sincere friendship, and the sympathy you gave me over the past months. I ask you to remind me to all those I learned to know and appreciate in your institute, especially SQT. I will keep a fond memory of them all, at least until 11 p.m. tonight, possibly later too. E. Majorana. Ettore clearly had a plan, but what that plan was is unknown. He never arrived in Naples, and his boat and body were never found. Some believe that he may have purposely disappeared after becoming worried that he would be forced to help create atomic bombs. Various theories say that his plan was to commit suicide, but since he had withdrawn all his money, this may not have been his plan. Others believe he chose to escape the war and fascist Italy because he was gay, which some family members believe to be the case. In 2011, the Italian police reopened the case to investigate a witness who claimed they had met Majorana in Venezuela. The witness claimed that they had been told by a mutual acquaintance that a shy man in his 50s, known as Binny, who refused to be photographed, was the famed missing scientist. The witness did manage to get a photo of Binny, which was analyzed by Italian authorities, and after investigating, they believed that the photograph was of Ettore Majorana. They also had reason to believe that Majorana had maintained a relationship with his uncle, physicist Carino Majorana, and Ettore would discuss scientific topics under the name of W.G. Conklin. A postcard from Carino was allegedly found in Binny's car. Unknown sea giants and Edith Widow. Expeditions to the deep oceans have often revealed strange ecosystems with newly discovered species. Recent discoveries have included a new shark named the Genie's dogfish, and possibly the longest animal ever recorded, a 47-meter-long Apolemia jellyfish. Less than 25% of the global ocean has been mapped, and even less has been explored. In comparison, if the Earth's ocean were the size of Manhattan, then it is estimated that we've explored the equivalent of one block, and only the first floor of that block. Oceans make up roughly 99.5% of the planet's habitat, and within the unexplored depths, there are thought to be many large animals currently unknown to science. And when you consider smaller animals, the number rises to the millions. There are countless small sediment dwellers to find, but in certain parts of the ocean, there is a greater chance of discovering large animals. Ocean researcher Tammy Horton said, "There are patterns in species discovery. They are related to size, environment, and where we look more often. The deep sea is one place where we're finding lots more new species. In Suruga Bay, not far from Japan's island Honshu, a 4.6-foot long slickhead fish weighing 55 pounds was determined to be a new species in 2021. Most of its closest relatives are nearer to 1.3 feet. This fish was found swimming over 8,000 feet deep, fairly close to Japan. Going out to even remoter patches of ocean, stranger animals might be found. The problem that scientists have found is that we have been seeking them out in the wrong way." Deep sea explorer Edith Widder said, "I spent a lot of my career diving and in submersibles, wondering how many animals there were beyond the range of my lights that could see me, but I could not see them." Edith decided to find another way to explore by having a filter made to copy that of the stoplight fish. This fish has an organ that emits red light under its eyes. Edith wanted to see if different patterns of light could attract predators. She was particularly interested in the atolla, a deep-sea jellyfish that makes a pinwheel of light. This jellyfish has no eyes, so the light must be directed at somebody else. The theory was that the atolla's light acted as a burglar alarm, so that when the jellyfish was attacked by a predator, it would turn on its pinwheel lights to try to attract an even bigger predator that would attack its attacker and give the jellyfish a chance to escape. Edith deployed her invention Medusa was in the water, it worked, and they got the first videos ever recorded of a giant squid in its natural habitat. This was after many years of major, expensive expeditions, but they had just been doing it wrong. In total, there are thought to be at least 2 million species in the oceans. So far, we know less than 250,000. Finding the 1.75 million missing species is becoming an increasingly urgent mission. If we fail to explore the deep sea ecosystems, we may never know what we may be destroying through commercial deep sea mining. Most deep sea investigations have been short because it is so difficult and expensive. However, periodic deep sea investigations revealed extraordinary ecosystems completely different to our own. For example, deep sea thermal vents have revealed a massive variety of rare life forms, such as 2-meter-long tube worms, which are the heaviest in the world, that live on sulfurous bacteria. There are long-armed yeti crabs that live near fresh lava flows for warmth. One expedition in 2022 went looking for animals on the abyssal seafloor of the Central Pacific Ocean. They were looking in an area called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, which lies between Hawaii and Mexico and stretches to 5,000